Mara Thompson had never imagined that her life would take such a cruel turn. She had been a mother for over 20 years, raising her son, Caleb, with all the love and care a mother could offer. He was her everything, her joy, her hope, and her reason to keep going every day. But that fateful day in early autumn changed everything. Caleb, only 22, was tragically caught in a car accident on his way home from work. The phone call that shattered her world came early that morning. The police officer on the other end had been kind, but the words were still unbearable. Her son was gone. The grief that followed was like nothing she had ever experienced. Days turned into weeks, and she found herself struggling to process the devastating loss. The funeral preparations were a blur of empty motions, decisions made with little thought, her body numb from the pain. She could barely bring herself to go through the motions of daily life, let alone interact with anyone who didn't share in her sorrow. But there was one thing she knew she had to do: bring Caleb home. Caleb had lived in another state, working for a tech company, and the plan was always for him to return home after the funeral. But now, she had to face the unimaginable task of arranging to transport her son's body back to their hometown. It was the last thing she wanted to think about, but as the days passed, it became an unavoidable necessity. Mara reached out to the airline she had booked her flight with, explaining her tragic situation. She asked for assistance in making sure that Caleb's body could be escorted back home with her. The process was already overwhelming, and she hoped the airline would make it easier for her to navigate. She never imagined that the company would add to her pain, turning what should have been a simple and compassionate request into a bureaucratic nightmare. When she first made contact with the airline, she was met with a cold, impersonal response. The customer service representative on the phone seemed to lack any empathy for her situation, offering no comfort or understanding. Instead, they referred her to a list of procedures and regulations that were, frankly, incomprehensible at a time when Mara was barely holding it together. The voice on the other end of the phone seemed uninterested in the agony she was experiencing. As the days passed, Mara grew more desperate. She was told that her son's body would need to be transported as cargo on the same flight she was on, but that she would not be able to escort him herself. The reasoning, according to the airline, was policy, a policy that seemed both heartless and unbending. She was told that she would have to go through a complicated process of arranging for a funeral home to handle the transport and would not be allowed to accompany her son as he made the journey home. This only added to her stress as she felt the walls closing in on her. Feeling a deep sense of injustice, Mara made several calls to the airline's customer service department. Each time she was told the same thing: rules were rules, and there was nothing that could be done. She was told that she would have to endure this final, unbearable separation from her child. She had already lost him once, and now they were telling her she could not even be with him on his final journey. But Mara was not one to back down easily, especially when it came to her son. Desperation turned into determination. She knew there had to be a way for her to fulfill this final act of motherhood, to be there with her son when he traveled back home. She was ready to do whatever it took. The next day, Mara took her concerns to social media. She posted about her experience, detailing the lack of compassion she had encountered from the airline. She wrote about how they had denied her the right to escort her son's body, how they had refused to bend the rules, even in the face of such an unspeakable tragedy. It was a vulnerable moment for her, sharing her grief with the world, but she had to do something. She didn't expect the flood of support that followed. Within hours, Mara's post went viral. People from all over the world rallied behind her. Many shared their own heartbreaking stories of loss, expressing their outrage at the airline's treatment of Mara in her time of need. The hashtag Bring Mara and Caleb Home began to trend, and soon the story made its way to the media. News outlets picked it up, and the pressure mounted on the airline to address the situation.